A lot of us have probably dreamt of owning an Alienware PC growing up, browsing through their website, looking at all their different laptops and desktop models, and seeing other creators use their shiny, futuristic-looking products. This was one of the gaming PC companies back in the day, and regardless of what you might think, it's actually still super popular today. Alienware got esports sponsorships and was the Sheldon Cooper's laptop of choice on The Big Bang Theory. Their reputation hasn't always been the best, with their products being infamously overpriced, having obscure proprietary hardware that's hard to upgrade, and people all over the internet having negative opinions about them. But I feel like it's been a while since we've really sat down and evaluated the quality of one of their pre-builds, so we're gonna see if buying an Alienware desktop is still worth it in 2025. Now, Alienware used to have a ton of options when it came to their desktops, like their Predator, X51, and Area 51 models, but right now, their Aurora pre-build is the only one available on their site, so that's what we got. Our local Best Buy had this Alienware Aurora R16 for $1,600, and it comes with an Intel Core i7-14700F, RTX 4060 Ti, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 1TB M.2 SSD. There's a couple reasons why some people might opt to buy a pre-built desktop over building their own. Some people just want to play games and don't care to learn how to build a PC. Others might not have enough time to build one and would rather just buy a pre-built for the convenience, better warranties, and turnkey solutions straight out of the box. Or maybe you just want to flex your money on some bougie name brands. The thing is, a lot of pre-built desktops are actually decently priced, but that can't really be said about Alienware. Dell's gaming division has been notorious for giving their products bizarre prices and hardware that are so outrageous that it's hard to even mention them online without someone cracking a joke or two at Alienware's expense. If you were to buy a pre-built PC from another company like iBuyPower or Asus, you could save around $200 or pay the same amount for better specs, neither of which would have a weird L-shaped motherboard in them. And if you were to build one for yourself, you could save even more, which begs the question, should anyone really be paying the extra Alienware tax? Starting with the exterior design, this is their 16th version of the Aurora desktop line, and the look has changed a lot over the years. Originally, the R1 had this simple case that might look pretty subtle today, but it sure stuck out back in 2010. It had LED panels on the side, was as big as a regular desktop, and featured a retractable optical drive bay cover. But then the R5 changed the design to be more in line with their laptops at the time, with the metallic gray shield, 3 LED strips on the side, and line vent grills. Then the R9 changed everything once again to be smaller, more compact, spherical, and more in line with their monitors. It was also tilted at an angle and had this wacky swing out power supply. The R13 kept the same design but added a window on the side panel, and finally, here we are with the R16. While Alienware has always kind of been known for their unique design and spaceship aesthetic, their newest model looks pretty ordinary, and you could easily confuse it with any other pre-built PC if that alien logo wasn't there, which might not seem like that big of a deal, but this is Alienware we're talking about. This was their whole shtick, futuristic looking gamer junk, and now it's just a generic black box with RGB on it. Of course, some might like this new modern design, but others might prefer their more outlandish, unique ones because of the strong brand identity. The R16 is much simpler and kind of boring compared to its predecessors. It has a single RGB strip on the left side of the case for some reason, and an RGB exhaust fan that you're able to control and change the colors of using the Alienware Command Center software that comes pre-installed. There's this little gap in the front of the case for intake that looks like a spider's dream home, and the build quality is very plasticky and feels more like a Dell Optiplex than a high-end gamer rig. It has a see-through plastic side panel window with hexagon grills for extra cooling and additional airflow, and the Alienware logo on the front serves as a very mushy power button, and turning on the PC feels very delayed. The front I/O has a headphone jack, 3 USB 3.2 ports, and 1 USB Type-C port. And the back's got a bunch of audio out ports, 6 more USBs, 4 of them being 2.0, and the other 2 being 3.2, 2 more USB Type-C ports, Ethernet, 3 display ports, and 1 HDMI port on that graphics card. It also comes with this Wi-Fi adapter that can be hung on a wall if you want, and a stock Dell keyboard and mouse. But this thing gets really interesting once you take a look inside the case. Taking off the side panel is done by unscrewing just one screw on the back and pulling on this plastic tab, which is actually way more convenient than we originally gave it credit for. But something unique about Alienware is their use of proprietary PC parts. Most companies that build pre-built desktops typically use consumer-grade hardware, but Alienware uses their in-house products. One reason why they might have started doing this is because of their unique desktop designs and architectures, and how most off-the-shelf products maybe wouldn't fit in their obscure cases. This is something they've been known for doing for a while, but with how normal looking the new Aurora looks, why does it still have a funky motherboard? Not only is this a silly design choice, but it also hinders your ability to upgrade in the future. One of the main benefits of owning a gaming desktop over a laptop or console is being able to chuck new parts in it whenever you want. But with Alienware, you sort of lose some of that functionality. This PC's got an unusual motherboard with this weird L shape that spans out the entirety of the case's interior and connects all the way to the front I/O port. There's no 24-pin power connector, and it only has 2 PCI Express expansion slots. There's only 2 RAM slots, and the memory that comes pre-installed doesn't have any kind of heatsink or branding, and it's also limited to very limited speeds. It comes with the 2230 M.2 SSD, something you don't typically see in desktops, but it does give you an extra slot to add another. It also has an extra drive bay for either a 3.5-inch hard drive or 2.5-inch SSD. It has an Alienware branded 240mm AIO, 2 case fans that are for some reason mounted perpendicular instead of parallel to the case, and the Wi-Fi card is on the opposite side of the motherboard from the antenna ports. So there's this long wire that routes across the interior of the PC. The power supply looks pretty jank too. It's not ATX, but actually a Delta form factor commonly found in servers. The GPU is on a quick release bracket, which is pretty neat. And then it has a bunch of these mysterious plastic bits that we can't figure out a use case for. We feel like maybe it could either be to guide airflow from the intake fan, but it also slots in with this other funky looking plate connected to the graphics card, so it could be to secure the GPU in place too. And while the motherboard, CPU, cooler, and power supply are all proprietary, other parts of the PC are upgradable. The RAM, storage, and GPU can easily be swapped out, and you can also add an extra case fan if you want. And the CPU is technically swappable too, as long as your upgrade is compatible with the Intel Z690 chipset. But just because a new processor might fit in the slot doesn't mean the Alienware BIOS is going to play nice with it, so please bear that in mind. Now for benchmarks, the Alienware Aurora performs just as you would expect for a PC at this configuration. In Cinebench, it boasts a CPU single-core score of 118, a multi-core score of 1283, and a GPU score of 11985. In 3D Mark Time Spy, it has an overall score of 13570, just under the average of 13731, with its GPU score being 13266 and CPU score being 15601. And when it comes to gaming, Alienware, it's still top contender. In Valorant, at 1080p on high settings, VSync off, and multi-threading on, it's easily able to run around 450 FPS. A bit overkill, but you'll find no problems running this game, so you won't be able to blame your PC when you get one tapped by the Instalock Reyna on the other team. In Marvel Rivals, at 1440p on high settings, it averages 98 FPS with it dipping down to 65 during team fights. Still very playable. It can even run on ultra settings with only a 20 FPS decrease on average. In Fortnite, at 1080p on epic settings, it's able to run a smooth 100 FPS with no lag spikes whatsoever, so if you see a player using the ninja skin and you want to give them a low taper fade, you'll have no problems doing so. In a more intensive game like Call of Duty Black Ops 6, at 1080p on ultra settings, it's able to smoothly run at around 100 FPS with it dipping as low as 70 FPS during intense Nuketown matches. In Cyberpunk 2077, at 1440p on ultra settings, it's able to run at an impressive 74 FPS. And if you wanted to get more frames, you could turn the graphics down to high settings and easily hit 100. And in Baldur's Gate 3 at 1440p on ultra settings, it averages 87 FPS, with it staying in the 80 to 90 range, not dipping past 78 FPS while playing. But overall, when it comes to gaming, the Alienware Aurora is still a top gaming PC and can pretty much do anything you throw at it with little to no problems. For the thermals, one of the main improvements for this new model is its focus on cooling. While the older models have been criticized for having a surprising lack of airflow and Alienware prioritizing aesthetics over practicality, it seems like they did a complete 180 with their philosophy. In GPU-intensive games like Baldur's Gate 3 and Call of Duty, the CPU hovers around 45 to 50 degrees Celsius, and the GPU hovers around 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. And for more CPU-intensive games like Valorant and Cyberpunk, it flips, so the CPU hovers around 55 to 60 degrees Celsius while the GPU stayed at around 50. And if you were worried about the plastic bits inside the case affecting airflow and thermals, testing the same games with and without the plastic bits inside had no change in temperature whatsoever. So there's no need to worry about your desktop overheating. When it comes to cooling, Alienware appears to have definitely stepped up their game. So, do we recommend Alienware in 2025? No! There are way better deals from other companies for better specs. But if you're someone who wants to stick down the pre-built route like Alienware's new design philosophy and can find one for a good deal, then, by all means you can go for it. Just bear in mind that you will be limited when it comes to upgrading in the future. And with Alienware releasing a new version of the Area 51 soon, you'll have more options to choose from if you wait a little bit. But let us know what you think of Alienware. Were you someone who grew up wanting an Alienware PC? Did you go on their website, select the highest component parts, and be like, wow, if I had 10 grand one day, I'd build this? Which desktop model did you like the most? And should we review the new Area 51 when it comes out? We'll see you in the next video, friends.